Now we are jumping over to our second match of the day, Tyler and Flurry.
Excuse me then, our next second match of the day. We've not had a second match of the day.
Our next and second match of the day. Yeah, sorry, it was somewhat grammatically ambiguous, for which I do truly apologize. But Tyler here with Shield on Zoo, something we've been seeing more and more from these players, where the realization has come that Warlock is just pretty good in the current metagame against most of the decks that are knocking about. I don't mind it. Obviously, I love it against Druid. That's the main reason you're putting in. Don't mind it against Warrior. Don't mind it against Priest. Don't mind it against Hunter. Quest Shaman, I think maybe it's a little bit questionable, but even then, I think it's not that bad. I think it's all right.
Yeah, if I had that matchup, I wouldn't feel upset about it. You know, I wouldn't. You know that moment when you queue and you see what you queued against, and you instantly either feel okay or bad. Like,
yes.
I would not feel bad about it if I queued that. But I believe the first matchup we are going to have is going to be the Warrior from Tyler, which is Control Warrior, going up against Flurry's Shaman, which is the Quest variant. And funnily enough, Flurry plays a weird list. He plays one Earth Shock. I mean, they're Tyler's decks, but we know what those are. It's just standard Control Warrior, basically. But Flurry's Shaman has one Earth Shock, and the biggest one is 0 former champs. So somewhere, I think Admirable might have just woken up and said PogChamp and then gone back to sleep again, because he just feels a ripple in the force somewhere. 0 former champs in his list. But he plays Swamp Queen Hagatha. So I'm going to ask you a question, Derek. Hopefully you can explain.
Please do.
Swamp Queen Hagatha has a very, very powerful battle cry that also leads into another battle cry, right? Because the minion you create, duplicating that battle cry on the surface seems powerful. But why do most Quest Shamans just not run Swamp Queen Hagatha?
I think it kind of harkens to a similar theory of thought as Quest Rogue, where a lot of the old school Quest Rogue I'm talking about, sorry, with Crystal Core, where there were a lot of cards that would have been very powerful in that deck. But when you distill it down, what you realize is that the cheap, tricksy stuff you can do is generally just more powerful. Because when you're generating this many lackeys, right, exactly. It's kind of the old school thing in Hearthstone that if you could, playing 5 1-drops or 5 lackeys is better than playing a 5-drop. The reason you can't do that is you run out of cards. That's the reason why you have to play on curve. Quest Shaman kind of breaks those rules because every card pretty much replaces itself, sometimes even more than replaces itself, when you get the battle cry, the quest rolling, and you're all of a sudden drawing 2 cards off Novice, generating 2 lackeys off of the Sludge Slurper. And so I think that generally I am of the opinion that a lower curve, cheaper deck is better. But I'm interested to see how it works out for Flurry. And if you're up against specifically Warrior, having an extra big threat like that could do a lot of work.
Yeah, I think as well it's relatively difficult to get the hero power along with Hagatha. That's like a 9-mana turn that effectively does nothing.
That's fair.
Because you just play a 5/5 for 9 mana. It's insane levels of value, of course. But we'll see how it works out. I'm looking forward to it. But on the flip side, no former champs against Warrior, so there's just less overall chances of doing those kind of busted turn 5 threats with Mutant.
Flurry is being absolutely pushed out of the start of this game, though. Tyler has the Dream starting hand here. He only has 3 1-drops, so it's unlikely he has 2 of them at this point, but not unheard of. It's not like some of the lists that I believe Staz has, where it's only 2 1-drops, and he manages to get them every time.
And you do generally mulligan for them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, nothing too absurd here for Tyler. But when you factor in the Snip Snap, things do start getting a little bit absurd. The only thing he needs to be afraid of here is the one of Earthshock in Flurry's list, which is a little bit of a concern. But even then, I think Tyler should be more than happy with this situation.
Yeah, this is close to as good as it's going to get. I'm not sure why we're dropping frames, so I apologize about that.
Yeah, me neither.
Maybe it doesn't for you guys watching, but for us, it's there's a bit of stuttering and some frame drops, so hopefully that fixes itself soon. But yes, this is just a problem, isn't it? Because look how weak Flurry's turns look compared to Tyler in the early game. And if your early game's weak against Warrior, that normally leads to your late game being weak versus Warrior as well.
It does, because it's, you know, we talk about this matchup with the Shaman where I feel like in the majority of cases it ends up in a bit of a late game value grind fest. Which is not necessarily to say that the Shaman's job is to generate as many resources as possible. Often it's just to delay the game to the point where they can launch all their damage face and just repeat the battle cry damage cards like Kobold Lackey and Life Drinker that we see in hand for Flurry. But you can get these explosive games with Quest Shaman, where you just get off an early Mogu and Mutate, and you just win the game.
Right.
Or you just deliver so much damage that the game becomes incredibly easy.
The other day, right?
We did.
Which was insane.
And it was absurd. But now for Flurry, he's going to have to do it the old-fashioned way of just slowly wrestling his way back into the game.
This is one of the problems that the deck does not do well in its fight from behind, outside of exactly mind control techs. Mainly because the deck just doesn't run any of the insane AoE that Shaman has access to, and mainly relies on getting those from ethereal lackeys, if possible. And I don't know, it's definitely tough. And the problem is, Flurry's expending resources that are pretty high value to fight back against not a lot. Tyler's not actually committed much to this game yet, at all.
Flurry not going with the Earthshock there does make some amount of sense, because it would only really have denied 2 1/1s, which is not insane, especially as it wouldn't actually have even killed the minion it was Earthshocking, unless he rolled a Spell Power Totem. So I don't mind saving it here, especially because going into turn 5, I'd say there's actually a not incredibly slim chance that Tyler goes for a Ziliax here if he has it in hand, which we can see he does, and then Flurry has a fantastic Earthshock if it's magnetized onto one of these 1/1s. I guess that the fact that Tyler's drawn 2 Rush minions makes it a little bit less likely, because if he has Restless Mummy, he'd probably prefer that.
Yeah.
And we can see he has arguably an even better option in the Super Glider anyway. So for the moment, the Earthshock for Flurry goes unutilized.
This is getting to be a tiny bit of a problem now. As you mentioned, the Shaman doesn't really draw cards, it mainly generates cards and keeps generating them until the game is over. But Flurry's not really generated tons of cards that is actually stuck around. And outside of the Slurper, there's nothing he can really do that's active. And this might just make this game slowly slip away from him right now, because there's no way for him to remove the weapon. There's no ooze in the deck. So Tyler will always be able to 2-for-1 a deck that wants to be on board, which is very powerful. And also Tyler's hand is good, it's reactive. There's Dr. Boom in there, there's Ziliax, there's a Warpath instead of, in case anything gets crazy. I think his hand is insane.
Tyler has the absolute dream. You cannot deny that. He had the early curve, he's got the mid game, which was obviously drawn to him by his early minions in the 2 Town Criers, and then he's got Dr. Boom to follow up as well. Warrior is disgusting. I always sometimes forget it in the face of Priest knocking about and Mage for a while, that Warrior is just still low-key absolutely insane.
If you had to get rid of one class, which one would it be, Derek?
It would be Priest.
Would it be Priest?
Personally, yeah. I know it's kind of a almost a boring opinion, very mainstream opinion at the moment, but in purely the way I feel about my enjoyment on ladder, I feel that when Priest is good, usually I enjoy playing less. Like when Priest is good, it's a problem. I think it rarely is a good place in the metagame. It's either way too strong or way too weak. To the point where I've spent a lot of time recently making anti-Priest memes on my Twitter.
Was that an order rule?
Because he could have got Knife Juggler.
Because he could have just rushed it in instead of using the Kobold Lackey. Maybe save Kobold Lackey to duplicate it.
Oh, right. Yeah,
I'm saying on the outcomes, so are there any bad outcomes that would have stopped him doing that?
Mana Wraith, but he floated 2 mana anyway, so yeah. I think that was
just
a slight order.
It's a small thing,
yeah.
But I think it also displays the importance of the fact that he has Barista in his hand.
Yeah.
So this turn, he could have actually gone 4 to face with Hero Power, and then Baristed and got 2 Kobold back.
True. Flurry wondering how much he can slow roll this, because Swamp Queen Hagatha Mutate is a strong play on this turn. But boy oh boy does he want to do that next turn. Does he just pass? You can't play Barista, right? Barista is the dream.
It is.
Hero Power Drinker, just to let it die?
The problem with Barista is normally best when you already have a board. There's not a lot of from-hand combos that are good with Barista.
That's fair.
And because of that, I think it can be utilized a little bit more loosely than we see some players doing it. My worry is always, when you hold these high-value cards, is holding them actually losing you the game. Was that Earthquake?
I think it was the Voltaic Burst that was picked.
Ooh. Okay.
Bat ahead is not that bad, right? It's kind of low attack, but even if it just keeps the board clear for a few turns.
Yeah. And the fear of it being mutated again.
Fair point. Especially if you can give it Wind Fury with Drustvar Horror. How does that interact with Wind Fury? If you kill a minion and can attack again, would it still have Wind Fury?
I think the last attack is always the Wind Furied one.
Right, okay. So if it attacked into a minion and killed it, it could still go face twice. Right? I've never seen that interaction before.
I want to say yes.
I want to say yes as well.
I guess it depends how Wind Fury is coded, right? If Wind Fury gives you a second attack, maybe the Bathead's ability overrides it because it's technically had a second attack.
Right. But like when you equip Doomhammer, if you swing with a Lickham and then equip Doomhammer, you can still attack afterwards because
the attack has Wind Fury. Wait. Yeah, because you're allowed 2 attacks a turn.
2 attacks a turn, right?
But that's the thing, you're allowed to attack again, which technically you've already done.
Is it like a stack where it adds attacks to your stack? And then if you have like, it gets way too confusing.
And then, if this happens, then maybe this and this.
If it has double Wind Fury as well, how does that factor in?
It attacks 1 million times.
I know for a fact that is not a thing. Well, Mega Wind Fury is a thing. Double Wind Fury is not a thing.
Oh yeah, it does.
Okay, good to know.
So the attacks, the kills never count towards true attacks.
Yes. Yeah. That makes sense. I suppose that's how Gonk works as well. When you attack with your hero, like you're always gaining attacks. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Adds it to the stack. Now, though, while we've been hypothesizing about Hearthstone science, Flurry's been slowly having his butt handed to him, I think it's fair to say. With Dr. Boom available next turn for Tyler, I'm honestly not really seeing any way for Flurry into this game outside of Shudderwalk.
And this is the thing, and this is where, honestly, a lot of people who say the Shaman destroys Warrior, I just can never fully get behind. Because, okay, it destroys Warrior if you go Mogu into Evolve, or you have, like I said, Flurry isn't using Former Champ, so there's no big game. If you go Former Champ, mutate into something, I feel like mutate's always the backbone of whether you do well versus Warrior. Yeah. And to me, that doesn't make a good matchup. If you draw a couple of cards in your whole deck at the right time to be good, and the Warrior doesn't draw very well, you can win. Like, that doesn't define a good matchup to me. And I think it might be an even matchup, but I don't think it's like Shaman wins, you know.
I think this is somewhat atypical of how this matchup will play out. Tyler had the absolute dream. I don't think he could have asked for a single card better. Like maybe he missed one drop at the start, but even then he found the second Town Crier very quickly, right? It was just a dream. And I think in that instance, because Flurry didn't find Sandstorm Elemental, maybe Mind Control Tech, I don't know, even that's probably not what not Mind Control Tech, but just anything to wrestle back the board. Mogu as well to try and get things back.
The big one's just the Evolve. He only has Mogu and Mutate as the big targets outside of, Swamp King or whatever. But for me, it's Mogu and the lack of former champs make that happen way less often.
I've only just realised, are Swamp Queen Hagatha and Swamp King Dread married? Must be right if they're King and Queen. Maybe different swamps?
Yeah, I guess it's not just
one swamp.
There's a lot of swamps in the world of
Warcraft.
Well, it's technically not the world of Warcraft anymore. I imagine there's a lot of swamps in the world of Hearthstone. Imagine if there's just one swamp. How weird's that?
We should
go to the swamp. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll see you there.
Oh, well, you should have specified which swamp. They're everywhere. We should go on the advertising team for Hearthstone. Hearthstone. It's swampy.
So catchy. Woo. And a little bit too little too late, I think, for this Mogu.
Yeah.
I'm so Boom coming down now. Honestly, it might just be one more turn for Flurry to see what he draws. But the thing is, Tyler's not even playing into MC Tech Battlecry either. Oh.
Is he coining out the laser?
Yeah, I love it.
Of course he is. This is purely to assert dominance.
Why not?
Yeah.
Oh, it was lethal. We just didn't see the laser actually got him. And that is going to be game number 1 going to Tyler. And that looked very one-sided again, as you said. Tyler did have a strong opening and Flurry just didn't really have the answers.
Yeah.
And it's just another question, right? If Agatha's super late game power, but you cut former champs, are you just adding one thing whilst taking away the same thing a bit earlier? Is that just end up being kind of the same but worse? I don't know.
I don't know. I do not claim to be an expert in Quest Shaman as well. I know that there are many others who have played the deck much more, and it is a deceptively difficult deck when it comes down to it. It's not just play a bunch of battle cries and you win. You have to know exactly what you're trying to do in each matchup, because the overall power level of the deck is not disgustingly high. I think you have to know how to put all these pieces together for it to get the job done. And in that case, obviously for Flurry, the pieces were just all wrong. Nothing was meshing.
That is true. Tyler has been having a bit of a ropey start to Grandmasters, but a great start to this series as he goes 1-0 up versus Flurry. And come back soon, because we'll be carrying on with the series.
Oh, look, another mage. Six, seven, eight. Oh my God, this is amazing.
Petra Punch!
Hi, my name is Dylan. I play Hearthstone and my in-game name is Frosty. Favorite Tiki character probably has to be Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. I love his sarcastic wit and charm. Dog person is a fairly good way to describe me. Describe myself in a word, huh? Well, oh, geez, that's a bit of a toughie. Jokester. It's definitely got to be meat lovers, by far. There are a lot of handsome Europeans in the Hearthstone scene. You know, there's quite a few playboys out there, so I suppose if I could turn into another pro, it'd have to be Orange. I mean, he is pretty handsome and good looking, so what can I say?
Here comes the boom! Somebody order a bomb?
No. No. No.
We're gonna have some fun! Magic! Here comes the thing.
This should be interesting.
Your will is no longer.
Magic! Okay then.
Need a hand, Explorer?
You'll find me wherever the action is. Onward to adventure! Magic!
We are ready to go with Tyler versus Flurry, game number 2 coming right up. We've got Tyler on Druid, I believe, going up against Flurry on his Shaman again. And I feel like just once more, outside of some crazy mind control shenanigans, this matchup could be quite tough for the Shaman in that Druid just sort of powers through in like crazy amounts of damage that suddenly all the lackeys and generation of the Shaman do not quite look too hot against.
It's true. Once turn 5 or turn 6 is hit for the Druid, things go very pear-shaped very quickly for the Shaman if they haven't got off to the kind of dominant start that they can definitely accrue. The Shaman is far from defenseless, or far from offenseless, I suppose, in the early game. Mogu Flesh Shaper and Mutate being, of course, the flag bearer for the aggressive start that Quest Shaman can put down. The absolute dream against Quest Druid. But I would say any kind of Mutate opener could be pretty strong. If you're just throwing down a Cable Rat and mutating it into a 3-drop, that's a decent little bit of pressure. Evil Totem starts generating some 1-drops. Druid doesn't have very many answers to that early on. This kind of stuff, it can get pretty good pretty quick.
Yeah, especially it's likely we see the coin Evil Totem out as well on one. When we generate that value, there's a Mogu Flesh Shaper.
Tyler as well, I think they're throwing away a Oasis Surger on the mulligan, which is obviously somewhat interesting. It's generally the card that you're always looking for as soon as you've completed the quest.
I ran into this morning. What do you do, Derek?
I'm a coin totem gamer.
Oh, really? Above the Quest and Explorer on 2?
I think so. What's your curve? It's like quest, questing, and then on 3... you know, you will have drawn a few cards since then. You will have drawn 3 cards, but just weaponize Wasp with 3? I don't know. I like getting Evil Totem rolling. I think the extra lackeys it can give you are very, very strong. Especially because you're playing the Questing Explorer into Wrath turn, and again, they only run 2 in the deck. They have the Quest as well. It's unlikely they have the Wrath. But I just like getting down the Evil Totem as well. I find it's deceptively strong, even in the matchups where you're trying to get as much pressure down as quick as possible.
Okay. There is a small note as well that this does also allow Flurry to keep the coin, which is important as well.
Yeah,
you know, to accelerate some turns, maybe whip out a hero power when he shouldn't have been allowed to, so to speak, and so on. So there are other benefits as well, but this is led into a turn that is not exactly mind-blowing for Flurry in the spot that he could just play Evil Totem or a 3-3, really.
I wonder.
Oh, I was going to say, do you ever bounce this? I promise I was going to say it.
It makes sense to me. You obviously get a nice big minion next turn, and there's not really all too much else that I think you're too worried about bouncing in this matchup. And of course, it contests the Crystal Merchant very nicely as well. But for Tyler, things are looking very nice on the other side of the board. He's curving up to turn 6 quest completion, of course, given that he went first and didn't have the Innovate, which I think is perfectly fine. Being able to play Starfall or Oasis Surger at that point, I think is more than good enough. Wow.
Just a big board.
Maybe a box slot, but I guess that's maybe a little bit
Sloshy.
bit too sloshy, exactly.
Behold, jewels of the sun.
Early usage of blue.
Yeah, it's definitely not bad, but it's fluke to draw a card and soak 4 damage. Is that good enough? I don't know. Like, that was a tough one for me.
So it does very potentially set up for a better Starfall next turn, because if the 4/5 has to attack in, it goes down to 2 health, which means it dies to the AoE effect from Starfall, which means maybe you can target something else, of course.
This has not worked out, though. Tyler's under a lot of pressure.
He is, it's true, but I think he should be able to dig himself out of this one without too much trouble. Especially as he could now go Loti, Innovate, Starfall, if he's so required. I guess Oasis Surger, Innovate, Mind Control Tech also gets the job done. Maybe I'm too all in the Innovate plan.
Hey, stop being so innovative.
Is it really just Oasis Surger pass?
She's going to take 9 damage this turn.
Well, it's not even that I'm afraid of necessarily. It's just the fact that he's played the biggest threat in his hand when it's chock full of removal.
And when that threat's dead. If Flurry wants it to be, right?
Right,
Like
exactly.
the threat's dead
yes.
on board is the point, isn't
That's
it?
what I mean. He's throwing away. He's using this Oasis Surger as removal when he already has lots of removal in hand.
And one thing as well, I was listening to Admirable last night, and I think it was last night or the night before, it all merged into one every weekend for me. Just one long weekend of Hearthstone.
It is
but
indeed.
he kind of raised the power of, or raised the point of the power of Sandstorm Elemental against Druid. And it feels weird. Druid plays big minions. Why is dealing 1 or 2 with the hero power to the board that big? And it's like, it actually catches up a lot of the breakpoints.
It really does.
And I didn't really overly consider it until Admirable said so. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, often you are about 2 damage away from clearing stuff, aren't you? You know, against Druid, because the minions are so big.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, maybe Sandstorm Elemental is just there. I should view it more as a 2-mana combo like it sometimes with the hero power.
Maybe.
It's going to be a pretty reasonable start fall, though. I think he might have to as well. Although, again, it hurts me to see that Nourish and it probably not get played, but... Oh, it's going to finish.
Wow, Tyler is playing fast and loose with his health total here.
He could still innovate Starfall, to be fair.
True.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Starfall, why not?
Maybe on this turn, the Loti wasn't worth it to go with the Starfall for a complete clear. But the thing is, I quite like getting Loti down on board, just stealthed and in play, because in my opinion, just makes it so much more difficult for the Shaman to develop into your board.
Is there ever a reason to utilize Loti less in that aspect in this matchup because of MCT? Because
Definitely
then
a part of it.
forces your board
Yep.
to go wide, doesn't it, if you keep it stealth for the spell.
Definitely a part of it.
But now, suddenly, hero power, and what's that, 8 damage from hand with no bounces?
It's true. And with 5 on
Wait,
board,
there's even more.
because of Weaponized Wasp.
Yeah.
8, 14, lethal.
Just
I mean,
lethal game.
I was looking at King Feoris on this turn, and I wouldn't be too surprised if Tyler is as well.
You know what you'll be looking at if you look at King Flurry's death.
In the face. I meant looking death in the face, but you will also get deathed in the face.
Yeah, well, say that sentence however you like, Derek. It's relevant either way.
Punctuate willy-nilly. Tyler does make the, not necessarily the easiest decision, but obviously the correct one in this instance to not just die.
Is this just a Hagatha turn?
I was honestly wondering if this is a hero power launch everything face turn.
I feel like the surprise factor is insane.
I guess if you use all your burst, then you don't have any burst to catch them out with after. So yeah, it's probably not quite there. But everything else is not quite there, you know? It's a pretty weak turn altogether.
Yeah, it's definitely unfun.
Okay. I guess because everything sucks, let's go with Hagatha. Which has felt very underwhelming both games so far.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I mean about you wanting to go cheaper cards. The 2 mana that you have to expend each turn on hero power becomes very apparent.
If we oversimplify our lives right now and say Hagatha should be a former champ, well, hero power former champ, 2 5/5s and a 1/1 on the board looks better than this. You know, yes, there's obviously the Drustfar Horror in hand, which is very powerful, but just 2 5/5s on the board. Tyler has to think a little bit more about his turn. And that's if we just say a strict, you know, Hagatha is 1 former champ.
That's just maths.
Just 1 add 1 equals 1 former champ.
Tyler had obviously the opportunity, which he passed up very, very quickly to go for just again King Feoris. It was a very powerful one there in my opinion. But obviously the reason not to is hero power mind control tech. So again, I can understand why he's going for this plan and just a little bit slower. But the problem is that I feel like the 2 approaches you can take of Druid, of one, overwhelming them with your incredibly powerful cards like King Feoris and Cenarius, and the other approach is going 3 minions on board maximum every turn and kind of just taking value trades, healing up, using your spells to remove their board every turn. they're both very valid lines of play to take. I prefer the second one, the 3 minions on board, don't go all in against MC tech. It's better when the opponent is running low on cards, because you don't need to give them the out of top deck mind control tech. When they have this kind of a hand that's just like chock full of cards, I feel like if you go slowly, they're just going to outgrind you actually. They're going to run you out of resources later on eventually.
And we see now, Flurry going to go for the value of the first fire instead of using the Wasp that would have just one shot. He gets Stormbringer, and that's why he gets more stuff. So here we go. Go away, Brightwing. We get second roll.
Gets a double activation.
That was way worse, I think.
I think it was quite a bit worse.
Because Cam was on the board.
Yeah.
Instead of the Sharky Shark. You did get Leroy and the Fellord Betrug, though.
Yeah, Betrug's... I think I've always been calling it Beltrug and not Betrug.
It is Betrug, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. I think I just... Oh, didn't know it was called that. Fellord Betrug summoning you a rush copy of a minion you draw that dies at the end of your turn is obviously not especially strong in Battlecry Quest Shaman because obviously all the cards are quite low statted, but maybe it gives you a kind of pseudo Sandstorm elemental effect where you can just take the chippy value trades.
And also, you have the sideways, like, weird benefits sometimes, where it's you, for example, draw Life Drinker, summon Life Drinker, bounce the Life Drinker on the board, and then you suddenly gain the Life Drinker in your deck. So when any bounce effects are available, it can be quite powerful, actually.
Tyler is presented with a very strong Starfall here, but it's whether or not he wants to use that incredibly powerful card at this point. That's the question.
He's just holding on. And playing it into mind control tech.
I like holding back on the Anubisath here because what this says is you can use mind control tech here, but it's not that good. Nothing amazing is being stolen here. War Druid Loti is obviously strong.
The 6/6 is pretty good. Look how much damage he can push.
It's pretty good, but look at the cards he has in hand. Look how good Mind Control Tech could be later on. If you can bait out a Mind Control Tech and then go Cenarius or King Feoris.
But remember, this gives him Mind Control Tech, nice, that puts him in the pool for Shudderwock as well.
True.
So I don't know
can
about that.
So can he afford to play around Mind Control Tech for the entire rest of the game?
No, but I think he could just Starfall that turn.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think just
I
that
think
turn
that's fair.
specifically,
Yeah,
I don't think he needed to. He had he had the Loti, and he had the 6/6 Taunt, which to me just looks like a 50% chance for an insane Mind Control Tech for your opponent.
I mean, I would have started there.
Yeah, I think I would have as well.
Yeah.
And also, look at the damage.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of damage on board. And the Goblin Lackey going to do the job as well and open up this damage.
Just playing stuff. Get it on the board.
But also, we've seen the Mind Control Tech from Tyler runs
Oh,
one,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we've seen the one Mind Control Tech from Tyler, so who cares now?
You just go off here, absolutely.
And he's got tons of stuff. Look at... It's like he's playing an Admirable deck. There's Nightblade in his hand.
So, Starfall Swipe available now. Which can clear up some, but not all of the board.
Look how sick the follow-up is from Flurry, though.
Yeah, it's nuts. He's looking very strong this game, which is one of the reasons why I think Tyler maybe should have just bitten the bullet and gone for a King Feoris earlier on. Because, again, this is the point I talked to of the two plans you have generally of all-in or keeping your board small. Against a hand like this, although they are more likely to have the Mind Control Tech because they've drawn more cards, you have to take the risk because you're behind, I think, as Tyler.
I mean, if that's the case, exactly, you just, okay, well, I'm just got -1 card in my deck
Yeah.
because I'll never play King Feoris.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, even after 2 Mind Control Techs are played, well, you're then scared of Shudderwock.
Yeah.
So you do have to drop it down as a win. Oh, that's a good one.
Ooh. Okay, now we're talking. Chef Nomi's going to be close to being activated as well in Tyler's deck. So if he can survive the next couple of turns, which again, with a Zephrys in his hand, it is possible. Maybe this is closer than I thought.
And let's bear in mind as well, there is still no Shudderwock in Flurry's hand, and Flurry has half of his deck left, more or less, which is kind of huge.
Oasis Surger as well for yet more removal. Could buy Tyler the time he needs. This is going to be close as anything.
If he just baristas with something, maybe Volpera barista.
Looks like what he's gearing for. I was wondering if that was a little slow.
Yeah, we can't. You can't barista now, of course.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Ooh, Earthshot. I like Earthshot now then.
What, to push face?
Yeah. There's 8 damage with that Nightblade. And if he sticks a Lackey on the board, he has like insane amounts of damage from hand.
Ooh.
Stormbring again!
Yeah, I think Stormbringer is absolutely the pick here. Oh, Zap, really?
Does have spell damage.
Yeah, but this is Quest Shaman. It makes so many rubbish little guys. And Druid sucks against this. What do they do against Stormbringer? Alright, whatever. He's maybe just pushing for lethal. It makes sense, I suppose, with the Nightblade in hand. He's giving up on the plan of making an overwhelming board.
Wait. Does he not just have to Zephyrus here?
So I'm looking either swipe Surger or double Surger, and I think he can save the Zephyrus.
Is he saving the Zephyrus for like counter lethal or heal?
Yeah, heal, or just a bigger board coming down. Ooh. It's very, very close to lethal. Not quite available though.
For some reason I thought Nightblade did 4. It does 3, doesn't it?
You thought wrong.
Buff it. Next buff coming. Nightblade to 4 damage.
I mean, I don't know about you. I'm looking at Hero Power, Life Drinker, Sandstorm Elemental, and then trade in. Like, you clear up the board, threaten lethal very easily next turn.
Yeah, that doesn't seem too bad to me.
Yeah, sorry. Use the more expensive cards here. This is just better.
Or even the push for the extra damage.
That Earthshock was the pick. It was just 1 damage face. You should have picked Earthshock. Frostshock then, right? Could have gone face.
It has some level of importance, actually.
Yeah, no, it does.
Because of the Shudderwock and the Wasp interaction. Means
True.
it keeps the Lackey on board.
Now for Tyler,
King Ferris, let's go.
all kinds of alarm bells are going to be ringing. Could he get Ziliax or something? He could get like double
Wait, could he
Vicious
get Ziliax?
Scalehide?
Oh, from Thingy.
From King Ferris. He couldn't even
needs,
get that.
He needs
Yeah.
to Zephyr's strike.
What does Zephyrus give him here? Healing Touch? Holy Fire?
Lay on hands.
Is what I say.
It doesn't give him a horse.
I scoff at you, sir.
Swipe first.
What are you trying to manipulate it to give him here?
Healing touch.
Yeah.
That'll do.
Time waits for no one.
Only heals for 6 though. Technically. As you just have to leave the Sandstorm Elemental on the board. So just Life Drinker and then Barista.
It is tempting to go for that, isn't it? Just then you go for Hero Power Life Drinker next turn.
Yep. I think so.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any healing left, right? You've seen Zephyrus. You've seen most other healing tools in the deck.
Has he seen both other hidden Oasis? I think one of the last 2 cards might be a hidden Oasis. Because he's
Even
definitely
worst
used
case,
1.
This gets more effect into Shudderwock when you draw it anyway, so I think it's just a win-win.
Fully agree this is the way to go. Overloading for 1 is fine, even if a top deck Shudderwock comes down. Still got that covered. So Tyler knows if he doesn't heal, the game's over.
Wait, then it can't be, you can't have a Hidden Oasis in the deck, right? Last card's Nomi.
Oh, right, yeah. Right, you are. Yeah, I guess it is.
I thought he played
Misremembered.
one. He
Fair
played
enough.
one super early, didn't he?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right.
And that's the issue, right? Like, Tyler gets to know me, but he dies because of fatigue anyway, so it doesn't actually matter.
And it's worth remembering that Tyler this game, we remember, did take a lot of damage in the mid-game in order to prioritizing drawing over removing. There were a couple of instances where he could have gone like an early MC tech with Innovate Oasis Surger, or Loti Innovate Starfall.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that early turns 6 and 7, I think is where Tyler might have misstepped here and used too many of his good cards.
Just going to go for it. 2/2 drops, and that is not going to be enough, and that is going to be game. and that Flurry evens up the series with the Quest Shaman, showing that he can get the job done. I do think there are a lot of just interesting points. I agree with you in that one, because there's even the idea that if Cenarius was picked up as a choose one, and there was King Flurry and still Cenarius left by the end of the game, then normally something's gone wrong, right? And not so much that Tyler did anything dramatically incorrect, but there's been a misstep or maybe a misjudgment of the game somewhere if you take in more late game tools and you never get to play the ones you even had in your deck, never mind the ones you chose as extras that maybe could have been something else that would have helped you out a bit more in the mid to early game.
And so order now from Tyler, we are going to get to see the Zoo Warlock, which he shielded in this portion. And again, you know, you don't have to play the deck you shielded in this format, given that it's a best of 3 and you bring 3 decks. Even if you win, there is one deck that you can just completely ignore if you would so like. But I think given that it was the shielded deck, he probably has to have some kind of an idea as to performing reasonably well.
Yep, and we just found that Tyler is going to be on the Warlock, and it is going to be against Flurry's Hunter. So again, we see a matchup that I think is fairly even. I think the Secrets can play havoc with Warlock, and then obviously unleash the Hounds as weapons and so on. But Warlock is Warlock, and it gets off to a good start. Then Hunter will struggle to keep up. So I feel like this is definitely going to be one of those games that whoever gets the start normally does stay ahead for most of it. But we'll see if any of the players can snap back. Just looking at Tyler's list overall, it is fairly straightforward. It's a single egg list, i.e. the Serpent Egg 2 of. I mean single egg as in there is another egg that could be played in the deck, but it isn't. And then overall just looks pretty standard. It's Sea Giant, there's not any burst in here, there's no Leroy, there's no Soulfires, but there's like double Grim Rallies, there's the flurry of 1-drops with Mekaru, Flaming, Crystallizer, and Defensive Sergeant, and Voidwalker, so like half the deck is 1-drops at this point. But yeah, kind of just the standard Zoo, I would say, as we move into game number 3.
And a slightly heavier build of the Highlander Hunter here, which maybe could be hurting Flurry, obviously with the Savannah Highmane thrown in there. But a couple of things that could work for him as well. He has Explosive Trap in there, which is far from mandatory in this build. Scavenging Hyena, I think, could work against him a little bit as well.
So could a good mulligan, because that looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, I'd take that.
Like, you know what? All right.
So, I hope Flurry was, well, I suppose he wouldn't have been watching the English language broadcast if he was watching yesterday, but we had a funny talk with Staz at the end where there were multiple opportunities when playing this exact matchup where we were saying, why did he play Zephyrus for Sacrificial Pact? Why doesn't he play it here? Oh, it'd be so good here. And we asked him in the interview and he was like, yeah, I just forgot.
I was honestly waiting for some profound sort of reasoning. Well, actually, in practice, you find Zephyrus, if you keep it for late game, it does this in Zoo. Ah, okay, cool. It's like, oh yeah, it can give you Sacrificial Pact, can't it? I was like, yes, it can, friend.
And
yes,
so I wonder if for Flurry here, we will be seeing a slightly earlier use. It's fair to call it off the Zephyrus.
I would be shocked. Well, I was shocked when Staz didn't know, but I would be even more shocked if Flurry didn't know.
Me too. Me too. Flurry, obviously a very popular streamer in Korea, whereas Staz is not. Exactly. And if you're a streamer, generally, I think it's fair to say you are more well acquainted with the weird interactions in Hearthstone.
If you're a streamer, you've been through things.
If you're a streamer, you're a memer.
I feel like that is something like maybe a future business idea is streamer meetups where they can discuss the things they have seen in their time as a professional streamer and kind of just talk it out. Feel better afterwards.
That would be like a 3-year conference for them to just have group therapy.
Yeah, that should be a weekly thing.
Pretty even though at the moment, I would say, for both players. Flurry, despite getting the best card in pretty much every matchup in the mulligan, in of course the Secret Keeper, is not off to all too dominant of a start.
Start to see now, though, as we talked just about, Zephyrus on demand, basically, and then there's, Eaglehorn Longbow, pretty good, Snipe, really good. Tiamat, definitely not the worst case at all.
That was a surprising play for me there from Tyler, because by destroying his own Lackey there, I thought he was playing the Lackey and the Voidwalker to set up for Evil Recruiter next turn. He just ate the Lackey with Grim Rally, which, of course, is not the end of the world. He has Diseased Vulture. But that's a key part of his hand that was just completely overwritten.
Your wish is my suggestion.
And it did obviously allow him to clear off the board, but even then, not too absurd, I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we didn't see the removal there for the Sacrificial Pact, but rightly so, because Flurry wanted that Shadow Word Pain, because
Absolutely.
who cares about a Void Walker when there's a Vulture on the board? And Vulture, I've kind of gone on about now for the past couple of weeks. For me, it's just the backbone of the deck. It's kind of what makes the deck better than turns 1 to 3, hope I've aggroed them enough. You know, there's actual beef that's involved in the mid game, which is what Zoo normally needs to go from a good aggro deck to a powerful sort of top tier mid deck.
I think that was for sure the pick. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that it still wasn't offered there in the Sacrificial Pact. I think it was like a lot better than Loot Hoarder, but either way, Zephyrus Mercs works in mysterious ways. He also mercs in mysterious ways.
It's the forced options, right?
Yes.
Like removal, development, and stuff like that. Like
it doesn't always go in that way, though. It doesn't always adhere to that.
But I think because Shadow Word Pain technically kills any minion.
Is a removal option.
Yeah, it's a removal option for both minions.
Fair enough. Fair
then
enough.
it's like, well, why would you want Sack Pack, which is a less flexible removal tool?
Yeah, I guess so.
And I guess maybe, just maybe, and I'm going to go wild here, it considered the fact that Flurry wouldn't get the full heal out of it. Because it looks at your health total, right? He's on 28.
I guess so.
So maybe it's like, well, this is more flexible and it's ranked higher because I think if Flurry might have been on like 2 health, it might have offered it him.
I suppose so.
And he could have always forced it anyway by pressing Hero Power. So far now, though, it's definitely a close game, but I do feel like the combo of Unleash, Marked Shot, and Siamat kind of covers the basis for Flurry right now.
It's quite funny how Tyler, after playing the one Lucky that didn't allow his Evil Recruiter to go off, proceeded with the next 3 draws to draw literally every Lucky card left in his deck. Just to show me up. Snake Trap, Freezing Trap ruled out already. Which is pretty good info there. The Snake Trap would have been quite devastating, I think, for Tyler. He can now test for Explosive by pushing face if he wants to.
Who's he going to wait?
It's your lucky day.
Procking the sniper anyway. One benefit Tyler could have avoided there was actually not giving Flurry a free bow charge by waiting till the turn 2, because normally you can't just not swing against Zoo, whereas now it means that Flurry can swing and still have a charge to threaten, and then still have a charge to threaten. So it's kind of awkward, and Tyler dropped the Lucky down as well, not only because he has the mana, but mainly I think because he wants to try and proc a freeze trap.
I guess the bow does factor in a pretty good way that you don't, in a pretty major way I should say, sorry, in that you don't want to give it extra charges, but personally, I preferred attacking face with the Lackey there, playing the Kobold Lackey and then playing the Recruiter, because that tests for Explosive and Snipe in a much more effective way.
Right.
But either way, Tyler's list here, which is very light on burst, may be starting to fall against him here, because board control, it feels like, is definitely not gone for him. But I think the best asset he could go for here would definitely be a slightly more aggressive approach.
It's not a bad Solarium at all.
Honestly, a very, very good Solarium.
He even has the semi-refill of the Evil Genius next turn as well. So things still looking good. Blue's not out of the woods yet. I think the game's actually been very even so far. But now Flurry can clear the board pretty easily.
I don't like
This Hunter's Pack might be clutch, because it actually bridges the bow as well. You can swing this turn with the bow, and then Hunter's Pack into Secret, and then he procs the bow again, and then Flurry's just had an Eagle Horn bow all game.
Tyler now slowly starting to lose board control as he draws yet another Lackey card. He needs to get something rolling here, and Ethereal Lackey, I think, may just be the way to do so.
From nothing, power.
Plague. Siamat's got Wind Fury.
It does. but I think I like the Fiendish Circle just about. I think it was close because you can get stuff to play by just tapping and going further into your deck.
If you don't kill the Tiamat though, you're dead.
A fair point.
Which is, I raise you, losing the game.
Yeah.
You call with logic.
I answer with a genie in your face.
And that's game.
That is game.
Flurry's going to take it. And that was the thing. I mean, you're on 19, and yes, it sucks, but he didn't even play Fiendish Circle this turn. And it could have just been Plague of Flames, so just 1 for 1.
Yeah.
I think... I don't know, it's easy for me to say, but to be fair, there was what, 15? There was 17 damage with 0 cards in hand for Flurry.
Yeah.
Guaranteed 100% of the time 17 damage, and he ended the turn on 19 health. Like, I don't know. That CM had made up a lot of that damage, and it could have been killed. So, Flurry is going to take the series, though, 2-1 over Tyler. I think that was a pretty solid series from him, actually. I think he played really well. And again, we see Hunter, maybe, as I mentioned earlier, went full circle. From Hunter being good because of Mage, then people thinking it was bad because of the lack of Mage, and actually being good because of all the decks that have come in because there's no Mage. Yeah, maybe that's how it's worked. I don't know.
Maybe. I think
if
you can consistently get these wins against the likes of Druid in particular, and then also even having a shot against Zeus, some of the aggressive decks, I think it's a very, very reasonable bring. And I fully agree with you that I think Flurry there played some very solid Hearthstone. His Quest Shaman in particular, it's an interesting dynamic because it was partly his own deck building decision making that put him in tough decisions or tough situations, because he put Swamp Queen Hagatha in and it was bad. In like both games, pretty clearly, he had to play it off curve. It didn't get in the cards he was looking for. But I think he manipulated those situations very well in order to play turns that you never want to play. But he realized when you had to make the bad turns in order to get later benefits, which got him through to a victory.
Yeah, one last thing about Hunter, at least that I'm liking, is we talk a lot in picks and bans and shields of, okay, this deck is the aggro deck that's good against these decks. This deck is the control deck that's good against these decks. Well, I feel like Hunter's got game versus aggro decks and some control decks, or slower decks, should I say. Yeah. Whereas you look at, I think it's okay, I think it's fine versus Warrior, it's good versus Druid, and if it's taking wins against Warlock as well, you start to go, well, does this just have to start being banned? Because it's so flexible, right? Yeah. It's not like one of these decks where you think, oh, after a win's happened, oh, I just can't queue this, because if they queue that, I lose. Yeah. Whereas Hunter just feels like, worst case, you queue it, you're probably going to at least do okay.
I think you're right. I'm still confused.
You know what I mean, though, right?
I definitely know what you mean.
It feels more rounded in its potential wins once the format happens, right?
That is something I can agree with. It feels well-rounded and flexible. It's just whether or not the power level is there. Like, it doesn't feel bad in any matchup. It doesn't feel terrible and unwinnable in any matchup. It's just in every matchup, it feels like it has a very, very high likelihood of just getting a dead draw.
I wonder if it's just sick because it's the deck you don't have to play. You either play it because it's so flexible and it often finds a decent matchup if you're in trouble, and if you're not in trouble, well, you're not in trouble, don't play it. Play your other decks. Right. You know, maybe it ends up just being like a filler deck because it's quite well-rounded. But anyway, we will continue to talk about this for weeks on end, but let's move on to the next match. It is